Fossils in amber. What if the story of ancestry could be captured in glass? Imagine golden drops of tree resin falling in a Cretaceous forest, sticky and fragrant. They trap leaves, feathers, tiny creatures struggling for release. Time passes. The resin hardens. Millions of years later, it becomes amber transparent tunes holding the ghosts of ancient lives. Among these ghosts, we find the ancestors of ants, preserved with a precision so haunting it feels like looking through a window into prehistory. Close your eyes and picture such a specimen, an insect less than half a centimeter long, suspended in golden light. Its waist is slender, wasp-like. Its mandibles are elongated, primitive. It bears wings, fragile membranes folded against its body. This is Pheromones, one of the oldest known ants, over 90 million years old. Neither fully wasp nor fully ant, it stands as a bridge between worlds, the solitary past and the social future. It is not a finished design, but a draft, a prototype of what ants would become. Pause and consider what this means. When we think of ancestors, we often imagine something familiar, an ape that resembles a human, a wolf that resembles a dog. But the ancestors of ants were strangers, creatures caught halfway in evolution's sculpting hand. To hold amber with Pheromones inside is to hold a paradox, an insect that does not belong entirely to one category or the other, yet without it, there would be no empire of ants. Fossil evidence shows that by the mid-Cretaceous, ants were already diversifying. In amber from Myanmar, scientists have found trap-jawed ants, their mandibles spring-loaded, snapping shut faster than the blink of an eye. In Canadian amber, winged queens rest frozen mid-flight, their fragile bodies captured forever. Each fossil is a snapshot, but together they tell a story. Ants were not simply appearing, they were experimenting. Every lineage, every mutation was a trial, some leading to extinction, others to the resilience we see today. And here lies the mystery. Why did ants choose the soil? Their wasp ancestors dominated the air, swift and solitary hunters. Ants abandoned the skies. They tucked themselves into tunnels, sacrificed wings in favor of stability, traded solitude for society. To the human mind, this seems like regression. Yet it was genius. Underground, ants were shielded from predators, climate swings, even the asteroid that ended the dinosaurs. In hiding, they built empires. In surrendering the sky, they conquered the earth. Think of this in human terms. We build monuments above ground towers, skyscrapers, bridges. Ants went the opposite way. They became architects of darkness, their civilizations invisible to our eyes. But just as we dig up ruins to study ancient peoples, the amber fossils allow us to excavate their forgotten beginnings. Each fragment tells us the story of ants is not sudden. It is layered, hidden, gradual. Civilization never explodes into existence. It condenses, drop by drop, like resin forming amber. There is something eerie about seeing an ancient queen in amber. Her body is intact, her wings delicate, her eyes still glinting after 100 million years. She looks as though she might crawl away if the amber cracked open. And yet, she belongs to a world that no longer exists, a world where giant reptiles ruled and flowering plants were just beginning to bloom. She is both familiar and alien, both a mother of civilizations and a relic of extinction. Now imagine a speculative twist. If amber had never formed, if these fossils had never been preserved, we might never have known ants were so ancient. We might have thought them recent, a side story of the insect world. But amber betrays their secret. Ants are old, older than most mammals, older than birds as we know them. They shared the earth with dinosaurs, survived their extinction, and inherited the world. Without amber, the ancestors would remain shadows. With it, they are illuminated. Science tells us that ants and wasps diverged around 140 to 170 million years ago. But numbers are cold. Fossils in amber warm those numbers into story. They show us the moment when solitary hunters began to transform into social builders. They reveal that the childhood of ants was not short but drawn out, a slow experiment across millions of years. Just as a larva spends weeks inside a cocoon, dissolving and reforming, ants as a lineage spent eons in a kind of evolutionary cocoon, testing forms until the perfect design emerged. Think of human civilizations again. The first cities were not Rome or Babylon, but small settlements, fragile and temporary. Only after centuries did empires rise. Ants followed the same path, only magnified. Their amber ancestors are the small settlements, the fragile beginnings. What we see today, super colonies spanning continents, are their Babylons, their Romes, their modern empires. But unlike ours, theirs have endured for tens of millions of years. Perhaps the most unsettling thought is this: the ancestors of ants were already social experimenters when our ancestors were still tiny, shrew-like mammals hiding in the underbrush. While we evolved slowly toward intelligence, they evolved toward unity. Their success was not in brains but in bodies working as one, not in thought but in instinct. And instinct, it turns out, can be more enduring than reason. So, who were the ancestors of ants? They were wasps trapped in amber, creatures caught mid-transformation, prototypes of empire. They were the shadows before the colony, the architects before architecture, the rulers before the throne was even built. And the amber whispers a truth: civilizations do not begin with grandeur. They begin in obscurity, in fragility, in forms we might dismiss as failures. Yet from those failures, endurance is born. The ants remind us that ancestry is not a straight line, but a mosaic of experiments, some forgotten, others eternal. Shadows before the colony. What if the ants you know today, the endless lines marching across soil, the architects of hidden cathedrals, the warriors of unseen wars, are not the true story, but only the latest chapter? Imagine peeling back time, not centuries, not millennia, but hundreds of millions of years. Before ants carved labyrinths in soil, before they built empires beneath our feet, their ancestors walked a very different earth, an earth ruled by giants and shadowed by extinction. Who were they? What shapes wore the crown before the ants became what they are? Close your eyes and picture the Carboniferous period, 300 million years ago. The air is thick, heavy with oxygen. Dragonflies as large as hawks skim the sky, their wings glistening. Millipedes longer than a man's arm crawl among swamp ferns. In this alien forest, insects reign supreme. But ants are not yet here. Instead, their ancestors, primitive wasps, dart between tree trunks, solitary hunters armed with stingers and instinct. These wasps are the prototypes, the raw sketches of what will one day evolve into the ants. They are solitary, not social. They hunt alone, they breed alone, they die alone. And yet, within their solitary lives, the seeds of the ant empire already exist. The lineage is clear. Ants are not an invention from nothing, but a branch of the wasp family tree. Picture a wasp descending to the ground, abandoning the air for soil, trading wings for tunnels, trading isolation for community. The earliest ants still bore wings, fragile reminders of their wasp heritage. Fossils from 100 million years ago trapped in amber like insects caught in time's amber gaze show us these transitional forms. Ants with wide waists, elongated stingers, and wings folded like memories. And here lies the eerie part. The first ants lived alongside the dinosaurs. When giant reptiles thundered across Earth, ants were already carving tunnels beneath their feet. While tyrannosaurs ruled the surface, ants ruled the soil. The oldest known ant fossil, Sphecomirma, found in Cretaceous amber, is neither fully wasp nor fully ant. It has the stinger of its ancestors, the body shape of its descendants, and the behavior of something in between. It is a ghost, a reminder that civilizations, even insect ones, do not appear whole but emerge gradually, piece by piece, from the shadows of what came before. Pause for a moment and reflect on human history. We speak of pyramids, empires, and revolutions, but all of them have roots, tribes, villages, forgotten ancestors who built without recognition. Ants, too, had their proto-empires. Early species lacked the sophisticated communication systems of modern colonies. Their pheromones were simple, their caste divisions crude, yet already the concept of the superorganism was forming, individuals acting not for themselves, but for the whole. Where wasps killed for themselves, ants killed for each other. Where wasps raised their own young, ants began raising the young of the colony. From this shift from I to we, civilization was born. The fossil record offers eerie glimpses. In amber from Myanmar, we see Cretaceous ants with trap jaws that snap like living bear traps. In Canadian amber, winged queens frozen mid-flight. These tiny fossils are not just relics, they are blueprints, showing us that ants were already experimenting, diversifying, evolving into the endless forms we see today. Now imagine the Mesozoic world fading, the age of dinosaurs ending in fire and ash. The asteroid strikes, forests burn, oceans churn, dinosaurs vanish. But ants, they survive. Why? Because while giants needed vast resources, ants needed little. While reptiles ruled above ground, ants ruled beneath. Their ancestors had prepared them well. Their small size, their hidden colonies, their flexible diets, all inherited traits from wasp forebears, allowed them to slip through extinction's net. While the mighty fell, the hidden thrived. And here's a speculative twist. What if ants were destined from the start to inherit the earth? The solitary wasps of the Carboniferous, the proto-ants of the Cretaceous, the shadow empires beneath the dinosaurs. Each step looks less like chance and more like inevitability. Perhaps civilization itself always emerges in cycles. Solitary hunters become social builders, empires form, collapse, and rise again. Ants were simply the first to master it millions of years before us. Consider how eerily parallel this is to human history. Our ancestors were solitary apes, surviving in forests and savannas. Slowly, we formed tribes, then villages, then empires. Ants followed the same path, but on a timeline magnitudes older. If ants are the shadow civilization beneath us today, their ancestors were the shadow prototypes of civilization itself, tiny architects rehearsing the play long before humans took the stage. Now picture this final image. A wasp in a Carboniferous swamp, solitary and remarkable. It dies unnoticed, and yet within its lineage lies the blueprint for an empire that will outlast dinosaurs, outlast mammoths, perhaps even outlast us. Every ant today, every worker carrying a crumb, every queen hidden in her chamber, is the descendant of that forgotten wasp, a survivor who left no monument but whose bloodline conquered the earth. So, who were the ancestors of ants? They were wasps, predators of the ancient forests, solitary architects of a legacy they could never have imagined. They left no cities, no pyramids, no names, and yet, through their quiet persistence, they gave rise to a civilization that endures still. Perhaps the first architects of empire were not human, but winged shadows, buzzing above swamps 300 million years ago. And perhaps the ants remind us of a humbling truth, that greatness often begins in obscurity, and the mightiest civilizations grow not from triumph, but from the shadows left behind. The legacy of shadows. What if ancestry is not a story of the past, but a prophecy of the future? Imagine Earth long after our species has vanished. The monuments we carved, the machines we built, the stories we wrote all crumble into dust. Yet beneath the soil, brood chambers still hum with life. Eggs hatch, larvae eat, pupae transform, workers emerge. The cycle continues. Our empires fade, but theirs endures, and in that endurance lies the whisper of their ancestors. Pause and consider. When we ask who were the ancestors of ants, we are not simply asking about wasps or fossils in amber. We are asking about the architects of resilience, the progenitors of a system that values continuity over individuality, unity over ego. Their ancestors were not kings or conquerors. They were small, fragile hunters who chose the soil over the sky, society over solitude. They traded glory for endurance, and in that trade, they gained immortality. Think of the parallels with our own species. We celebrate individuals, we build statues, we immortalize names. But statues erode, names are forgotten. Our civilizations rise high but collapse under the weight of ambition and division. The ancestors of ants remind us that greatness may not lie in monuments, but in survival, in the ability to adapt, to rebuild, to persist through catastrophe. The concept of the superorganism, a colony acting as one body, each ant a cell in a larger whole, is not just biology, it is philosophy. Their ancestors laid its foundation, and their descendants perfected it. While we pursue individuality, they erase it. While we mark history with collapse, they mark it with continuity. Perhaps the true measure of civilization is not in brilliance but in persistence. And by that measure, ants have been the masters of Earth for over 100 million years. Now picture this unsettling vision. Humanity gone, cities crumbled, satellites falling silent in orbit. And still, the soil breathes with life. Colonies thrive. Super colonies expand. Wars rage unseen beneath our feet. The ancestors of ants did not build for themselves, but for their descendants. That legacy ensures that long after we fade, their shadow civilization will remain eternal and unbroken. So, who were the ancestors of ants? They were wasps who abandoned the sky for soil, survivors who outlasted fire and flood, architects of unity whose legacy still hums beneath your feet. They left no monuments, no scriptures, no names, only the blueprint of resilience, carried in the bodies of trillions. Perhaps the first empire of Earth was not ours, and perhaps the final one will not be either. Perhaps the true rulers have always been here, born of shadows, relentless, eternal.